even let's say, even if I were to adjust or reduce my work hours, we can still live fine.
That wouldn't materially reduce the burden for me. Hey y'all, it's Z and Charles, and we're back. We've put the kids to bed, and we're getting ready to talk about something that I'd say we talk about pretty frequently. Wouldn't
As
you?
of in the past few months, yes.
So, what we're going to talk about is whether or not we want to have another baby. And so, just as some background, we have 3 kids now. 2 kids, 7 and 6. They're getting ready to turn 8 and 7,
Yes.
which is crazy. But they're from my first marriage. Their mom passed away, and Z's the bonus mom. She's adopted them and all that. They are our children.
Yes.
And then we had our own biological baby last year, and he just turned 1 year old, and so he's our little man running around everywhere,
Yes.
and we're just trying our best to keep up with him right now. So what we're trying to figure out is whether or not we want to have another kid. And please share your comments with us.
So what stance
Okay, go ahead.
today, right? I know he kind of oscillates in his view in regards to having another child. As of today, where do you stand with having another child?
So I'm honestly on the fence, because to me, I have 3 children now, and I am 43 years old. I'm going to turn 44 here in a couple months. And some of the things that freak me out a little bit about having another kid is, uh, you know, when we have them, I would be like 40, maybe still 44 years old. And so that means that when they're finishing high school, I would be 62. And that's really old. Like when I see people at school, other parents, I don't see 62-year-olds. And so that freaks me out a little bit, because I think, like, uh, that there's going to be child obligations, well past the point of when I ever would have thought of having, child obligations. I mean,
Hold on, let's pause on the
yes.
age part. So I understand where you're coming from. And for the record, I'm 37 years old. So from a female or a woman's standpoint, I'm getting older. I'm considered advanced maternal age, aka geriatric, as far as pregnancy goes. I think that for me, that is a one of the reasons why I think I would want another child. We're going to get into some other reasons, but I feel as if for whatever reason, I'm not quite done as far as my child rearing time. And I feel like at 37, and I'll be 38 next year, I have a limited window to proceed with that, right? And of course, it's both of us, I think, have to be in agreement for that. It's my body, but it's also your time, your responsibility, your blood. So I take that into consideration. But as far as I think my age goes, I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm like, I don't have the time for us really to sit and ponder for years. Okay, go to your next reasoning why you're on the fence.
Okay. So with Z's job, she has to go into her clinic every day. She's away from the house for 10 hours a day, and ish.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And so with my job, I work from home. I have a full-time plus job, but I work from home. And so when things go wrong with the kids, it's kind of my responsibility to take care of them. When there's an accident at school, when something needs to happen during the day, when there needs to be a trip to the grocery store, when there needs to be, you know, any odd or end that happens during the day, it's kind of like you can't be expected to do that, which I understand because, you know, you go to work, you see patients all day, and then you have to do all your notes, then you come home. But also the burden falls on me to kind of like pick up the slack, like when our if our au pairs, you know, if they get sick, if something's wrong with them, you know, if they need help doing something, it's like I'm kind of managing the house and I'm also trying to hold my job, and
FYI, au pairs are, if you don't know, they're kind of like a live-in babysitter
yeah.
that we have. Yeah.
So and that's part of my hold up is that, you know, like right now with our baby, you know, our 1 year old, you know, it's a lot, and I'm just worried like how long into the future is that going to be something that I have to, you know, manage myself.
Well, one, I told you that I was willing to adjust my schedule,
Mhm.
right? And we talked about it. You were saying that you don't think that would be, pretty much just to summarize, in our best interest,
It
right?
doesn't make financial sense.
Right. But even, let's say, even if I were to adjust or reduce my work hours, we can still live fine. It may not be a lavish and all the things, but could still save. We can still, I think, do trips and things of that nature. So I was willing to not give up my career, but maybe just reduce the hours that I do at work to decrease this burden that you feel, right? That was going to be my sacrifice, I feel as if. So you didn't feel there was added burden for you with an addition of a child.
But the changes that we discussed with your schedule, like, you know, working a half day 2 days a week or something like that, that wouldn't materially reduce the burden for me.
How so?
I mean, so a half day 2 days a week, I'm not responsible for, you know, picking up the slack with the kids.
Say that again?
So like, I mean, if you had if you left like early 2 days a week to come home,
3 days a week, right?
or 3 days a week,
Okay.
I mean, the rest of the time, the majority of the rest of the time, I would still, you know, I'm still managing the household.
Well, the other 2 days and 3 days, majority of the work week, right? Because I'm there on the
Mhm.
weekends. So 2 days of the week, yes, there may be some added responsibility for you. Listen, I'm not saying that addition of a child is not going to be anything on you. I'm just trying to think of a way to decrease some of it,
Mhm.
right? You're either There is going to be some added responsibility, yes, but I'm trying to find a way where it's going to lessen. It's not going to be completely You're not going to be completely unaffected by a
Yeah.
fourth child. Yeah.
So let's move on because we could talk about, you know, kind of the negatives of another child all, you know, all night, but there's a lot of benefits to
Let
a
me
fourth
start with
child.
one of the reasons, another reason why I think I wanted a fourth child. I watch our 7 and our 6 year old, and the bond that they have to me is so
They're
amazing.
besties.
Pretty much. They fight, of course, like brother and sister, but they're also built in besties. And I told Charles, I remember there was one time that he was out on a work trip or something, and we were at the park. I took the kiddos to the park, and some other kiddos at the park were a little bit, they were a bit mean on the playground. And, it could have hurt their feelings, right? If they had no one to play with. But you know what? They just brushed it off and they played with each other. And it literally brought tears to my eyes because some of the stuff that this other kid was saying was just not nice. And I felt like if they were by themselves or isolated, it could have really hurt their feelings, but they had each other, right? Even if this kid or these other kids didn't want to play with them, it didn't matter. They were going to have fun. They had each other, right? And so I love that. And the kids are amazing with our little one, right?
Yeah.
Especially our oldest boy who's 7 now. He is amazing. But there are times where the 7, the 6-year-old want to do their own thing, right? Whether watch their own shows or be or spend time on their tablet.
Yeah.
And it's not a shared interest with our youngest. And so sometimes I look at that as he gets older. It not that it makes me sad because I expect the 7, the 6-year-old to have their own interests, but I think I want him to hopefully have a similar bond with a sibling of a similar age, right? If we're blessed to do so, right? Even if we decide to, try to conceive, it may or may not happen. But I just think that's a beautiful relationship. And sometimes when I see him off to himself, I know even if he is the last child, he would be fine. But I just think, that could be such a added benefit for him. And then especially in the community where we live in, I just think that it would just be nice for him to have like another built-in bestie. His older brother is literally his bestie, but another built-in bestie of similar age. So that's what I think about.
And another positive of having a fourth child that we've talked about before, and it's something that really I do agree with, is our youngest right now. He's our only noticeably mixed race child.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can look at him and you look at our older children and oh, he definitely has a different mom or a different parent of some sort. And Z's brought up to me before, it's important that he doesn't feel like he's the only one that looks like him. And
Yeah, because he doesn't quite look as chocolate as mama,
yeah,
and he don't look as vanilla as his
or his
daddy.
or his older
And he
siblings.
doesn't look like his older sibling. So he's an entity of his own, a beautiful entity. But I think it's nice when you're a kiddo to see yourself in someone. And like I said, if he's the last one, I think he's so loved that he would be fine. But I think it'd be nice to have someone who he can identify with, like a little mixture, who's a mixture like he is.
Yeah, so those are the things that we think about when we think about, are we going to have another child? And I don't think we really know, um,
As far as what?
as far as what's going to happen, as far as what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think I'm not putting the burden on you, but I think it's more so the ball's in your corner, right? And I know at a certain point, I'm just going to age out of it, right? So if if in the next few months he doesn't decide to, you know, I I'm reasonable in that I would never want to force, right, a child on him. And it just will have to be what it is. But from my perspective, what I feel about my body, I feel like there is one more child left in there. And I think that would not necessarily complete us because I feel like we've always been complete even before the addition of our youngest one, but it would further complement, or add to our family. So that's my thought process.
I feel like 4 kids is a lot of kids.
It is, but I feel I was playing, I think it was something on Facebook or Instagram, and they're like, it's hard going from one to two, and then going to three is a lot. But then after 3 kids, it's kind of like you're used to the chaos of it all. So,
So that's how our conversations go when we talk about another baby.
yeah, if you guys have any comments, any advice, please post it down below. Okay. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you guys. Good night.